And our next story comes from Gyda Meeten. Just to let any of you know for whom you might want to bow out from this story does engage with suicide, and it might be that you just decide for this evening, this evening isn't the evening to listen to that story. So just to let you know. So we'll have Gyda's story and then a 5 minute break after that. So take it away, Gyda. You're on, and thanks very much.
We fundamentally disagreed about what was sexy, she and I. She once sent me a text meant for a lover, hilariously, filthily inappropriate to send to a married friend. It took her a beat or two to realise that she sent the thing to the wrong woman, followed by a feverish string of messages trying to unsay what she'd said. And in any case, she delighted in reminding me that I wasn't her type. She loved a tall, athletic woman, preferably an Olympic rower or a strong-thighed horse rider. I'm 5'4" with the upper body strength of an anemic 90-year-old. I tried to persuade her of the attractiveness of men and sent her a rather gorgeous topless shot of Aidan Turner at the height of his poledark fame, all tousled curls and hairy chest. This picture of Aidan Turner. Nope. Ugh, all that hair. Ugh. Not even a moment's hesitation. She had an attractiveness that wasn't conventionally sexy. Tiny frame, salt and pepper hair that stuck up in all directions when it got long enough, but was usually cropped short. Her eyes were dark brown, sometimes seeming almost completely pupil, and she wore the same thing day in and day out, ancient Levi's, Doc Marten boots, check shirt, and had a moustache Frida Kahlo would have approved of until one lover taught her to wax it off. I was always a little on the back foot, intimidated by her intelligence, knowing she outread and outthought me by miles. Henry James was her absolute favourite, and I lied that I'd read Portrait of a Lady when I hadn't, and I still haven't, although I do have her copy on my bookshelf. She became part of our family, and we loved her, despite her complicated backstory, the shadow of suicidal thoughts, and her fearsome spikiness. And we even pretended to love her hideous rescue dogs, the meanest Jack Russell you could ever meet, and an eye-wateringly stinky German Shepherd. Men in her life hadn't been all that kind, but she was safe in our house. My bemused husband reacting to this fiery addition with his usual gentleness and a steady stream of cups of tea in a porcelain mug, because that was one of her many rules. There were more. Be honest, always. Dogs are better than people. Horses are even better than dogs. Cars should go as fast as possible, and books should be secondhand. The rules, good therapy, and medication kept her safe for a while. Our funniest day out was when we both needed a new bike. In the town nearby, there was a second-hand shop that renovated them and made them roadworthy, which was just up her street, not wasting money, giving somebody a job, and doing something to minimise landfill. So we pitched up, leaving Andy and the kids to play in the park across the road. The lads in the shop let us take the various options out to the car park for a wobbly test drive. And I remembered why it is so impossible to ride a bike with an audience. I felt like a 5-year-old as I careered around the tarmac, trying not to hit anyone's car. She found a good sturdy black bike, and I had a lovely lilac one with a flower on the chassis. As we haggled over the prices, we realised that the guys thought we were a couple. She, a walking stereotype in her docs and boys' jeans, me a little bit more femme in a dress and lipstick. And we had an ease between us that might have looked like a relationship of a more romantic type. She noticed it before I did and started riffing straight away. With her tongue firmly in cheek, she asked if I thought the new bike would do for our travel series. Would it be comfortable enough for the distances we were hoping to ride? I caught her eye, dark chocolate lit up with mischief. Maybe I could get one of those gel saddles, I suppose. And she said, yeah, I can't have you with a sore arse when we get to the hotel, can I, hun? She added a comment about the size of my bum and gave it an affectionate pat. Did we settle on a name, G? Was it going to be Dykes on Bikes in the end? I covered one of those snorty laughs with a cough. I thought it was going to be the Doc and the Dyke rock their bikes. Just then, though, Andy and the kids arrived. My son, just a toddler, running to cling to my leg, and my daughter bringing me a bunch of dandelions she'd picked in the park. So suddenly our imaginary road trip travelogue got a bit more complicated. The Dykes on Bikes seemed also to include a random man and 2 children. Either polyamory had hit central Scotland, or we'd just been pulling their legs. And as we headed back out to the car park, she took my hand in one of hers and Andy's on her other, unable to resist a last little twist of confusion for the bemused bike guys. We never did manage our bike tour of Scotland, and I mentioned that for a while she was safe. She tried so hard for a really long time, but over the years the darkness took up more and more of the space inside her, and we couldn't always drive it out with tea and mischief, or even with prayers and therapy. And one weekday night I had a message on my phone. It wasn't a missent bit of erotica this time, but please would I look after the dogs? She was sorry, she couldn't stay. I raced to her house and it was locked and dark. The dogs were barking in the kitchen as I rattled the door handle and then dialed 999. I traced the progress of the blue lights and sirens down the hill at the other side of the valley, and the police officers were calm but urgent, doing that thing where they talk into their shoulder radios over hisses and crackles, unclipped torches, and walked round the house. A grim-faced female officer turned back towards me from the bedroom window at the front. "Would you just mind waiting in the car for a moment, ma'am?" I knew what her tone meant, and the thud as the other officers broke the door down. I opened my car door and got in for just a moment. She's done it this time, running around my head like that LED ticker tape thing at the train station. But I could help, and every moment counts in resuscitation, so I got back out. The female officer blocked the hallway. "Ma'am, I don't think you should come in. Please go back to the car." "I'm a doctor. I can help with CPR. Please let me try." And she paused, weighing up the risks and benefits. Was I going to be an asset or a complication? Nodded once and let me pass. My friend was on the strip wood floor between the bedroom and the living room, and the house was cold already. She lay, tiny, in her blue and white PJs, soft flannel with buttons. I'd known her for years, but had never considered what she might wear for bed. If I'd guessed, I might have said joggers and a threadbare t-shirt, but she was also the kind of woman who still used silver cutlery because the food tasted better, bought furniture from antique shops, and only ever used Faro and ball paint, and I suppose it made sense that she had beautiful pyjamas as well. Her bed was neatly made behind her, soft wool blanket over the end, daily office book on the bedside table with her reading glasses. And kneeling beside her, the two male officers were doing chest compressions, hats beside them on the floor. One counted out each push, grunting with the effort, and she was so very still, so very small, so very pale under his hands. The ligature mark was offensively red against her white throat, violent and terrible, and I knelt too. I know her. I'm happy to do mouth to mouth, wanting to be helpful, wanting to look in control. And they glanced up and above me to their colleague and moved to let me in. I lifted her proud, fierce jaw with my right hand and put my mouth over hers, and she tasted of coffee and vomit. A second of dark humour flashed through my mind. She'd be laughing that I'd finally got round to kissing her. The green jumpsuited paramedics arrived, taking over the effort to save my friend, and she looked like a child surrounded by a ring of roses of professionals, and me, rocked back on my heels and suddenly aware that I was crying. The female officer took my arm gently and led me out of the room while they kept working. Outside, blue lights flashed on and off through the blinds. In her small bathroom, I rubbed my teeth with her toothpaste, rinsing the taste of her mouth from mine. Someone's bathroom is such an intimate space, cluttered with all the stuff we use to take care of our bodies, and it felt almost more intrusive than the CPR somehow. Being there with her facial wax strips and their hair on the soap in the shower, tampons in the basket beside the toilet. My knees buckled, and I sat heavily on the side of the bath. I didn't see her again after that night, though her family got to say goodbye in the hospital, which was something. And I went back to work the next week, wanting to be helpful, wanting to be in control. So we disagreed about what was sexy, my friend and I. We disagreed about the merits of Henry James. We disagreed about Irishmen with perfect chest hair. What we didn't disagree on was the deep magic of love and trust, and the joy of chosen family, and of beauty, and of mischief, which were almost enough to keep her here. And sometimes I do wonder if those poor bike shop guys are still on the lookout for that strange pair of dykes on bikes, still trying to work out where the beardy guy and his kids fit into the scenario.